I'm Alessandro de Salve. I am, I can be defined as a multi-potentialite consultant, as I like to say, because I have at least 3 or 4 fields of certainly interest and I hope knowledge as well. Let's say that IT was my game field from when I started, my professional career back in the beginning of the 90s, so you can do the math. Um,
Yeah.
Also, my IT and software development and software consultancy was the backbone of the first part of my career development, of course. Then there's a second segment, a long segment, which is human resources and especially talent acquisition for IT professionals. So we are going to add up to quite challenging scenarios and areas. And ultimately, in the past like 18 months, it looks like 18 years with the speed
Yeah.
that it's going, but we have to remember it's only 18 months. Of course, I deep dive with all my 225 pounds frame in artificial intelligence, and first applying it to my field of knowledge, which was, of course, HR and talent acquisition. But soon enough, I just, it just became pervasive in every kind of, professional scenario that I could somehow bring a knowledge of. And so, yeah, today I like to define myself as an AI, hopefully competent enthusiast.
Yeah. So it's interesting. So you're outside Milan, right? So you live
Yeah, Italy,
outside.
Milan. Yeah,
Yep, Italy, Milan. So
yeah.
have you seen, it's interesting as we see trends and everything here in the States, and I've had conversations with people from the UK and other places, but do you see a lot of the tech trends coming from the US and pushing over to Europe? I see a lot of regulations and everything coming from Europe and then pushing over to the US, almost opposite. But or do you see it kind of a mixture? I've seen Europe really become at the forefront actually at a lot of innovation. What have you seen over the past like decade with that?
It's interesting because Europe and Italy as well somehow always follow the technical trends in much like a similar pattern through the years. What was a technical novelty there,
Hmm.
and by there I mean the U.S. You knew that somehow was coming here, and by here I mean Europe and especially Italy within a time span of, let's say, 2 years or so. Okay, so
Yeah.
you knew what was coming, and it was somehow predictable, but it was always on technical terms somehow.
Right.
In the most recent years, I started, of course, seeing technical development being excellent also in Europe. So it was a mixture of following and creating somehow.
Hmm.
When we bring AI into that, and of course we are speaking about a whole a very large field, very large scenario of technology. It's a mixture of being fascinated, being reluctant, and wanting to develop your own AI so that you can compete somehow
Yeah.
with what is coming. So it is true that on technological terms, of course, we are quite on the same, quite on the same level. But I see more reasoning and more reluctancy, if that's a, I hope this is a correct word. My English is good, but not so great sometimes. Um, in terms of evaluating the consequences of adoption from an ethical term, from a
Oh,
philosophical term, from a work impact term, rather than just embracing it as a whole, disruptive technology. So yeah,
yeah.
there's a lot of thinking here.
Yeah, it's interesting. And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about the difference of how the US approaches and is approaching the AI, if you want to call it trend and this wave of AI. It seems like there's a lot of companies in the US that are all about we don't care about the ethics of it. We don't care what happens with it. We don't care if it's vaporware. They're just pushing out and they're riding a trend, and they're just trying to ride this wave without any real validity to what AI is and everything. And then ethics comes in second. And it seems like, from what you're saying and what we've talked about in Europe and in Italy, where in your guys' perspective, it's more like, hey, let's slow our roll. Let's slow down a little bit. Let's find where it fits and make sure we cover the regulations, the adoption, the ethics of it first. That's pretty accurate, right? The way you guys are approaching it.
Yeah, if you think about it, the first kind of global try of having an ethical and law framework for the adoption of AI actually was released in Europe in the
Yep.
beginning of March, and it is the first approach that I see globally to AI as a somehow subject that you have to confront with on a kind of law term, so to speak. So, of course, there are extremes, and it's not always like that, and it is a subjective view, of course. But let's say that whatever comes from other, countries and Western countries or US, okay, you see that the first question is it a good technology? Is it better than before? Is it convenient? Okay. The first question that we ask here in Europe, but I see mainly in Italy, is it safe? So of course, the second question for everyone is the opposite. But the first question is is it good enough? Is it good as they say?
Yeah.
And the first one for us is it safe? So there's a difference of, approach, definitely, in my opinion.
Yeah, the other interesting thing is we talk about the timeline of AI. Obviously, AI has been around. The concept of AI has been around since 1930. A lot of people, from Alan Turing. So a lot of people don't know that. But really, and you talked about this 18 months, and that's where you started, the GPTs and the OpenAI started coming out, and they were somewhat relevant, but there still wasn't a lot of trust with those systems. And to me, I really saw, for some reason, October-ish, September of last year was really where it started just blowing up. And then even if you look at the difference, and you talked about this snowball of just like how it's really snowballing. If you look at the difference from every single month between that time, so September, October, November, December, and into 2024, that momentum is unreal, like no other technology. And you see that momentum in marketing, really. And that's because someone catches on, and then all of a sudden everyone's AI this. And you're like, well, it's not really AI, but suddenly everyone is on that bandwagon. So, I mean, do you think we're going to continue to snowball? And I think it's going to keep getting bigger, but where do you think we're trending towards? Do you think we're going to plateau? What's happening with this?
Of course, I think that whoever nails this answer has the key to, the truth for the following 15 years. So, of course, it's just exchanging opinions. I see that you said something that I really, I feel on the same page with because it's actually 18 months from the outcome of GPT, but it's really 6 months, like October of 23.
Yeah.
So actually 1 year after that, we are really trying to get a grasp and trying to make up some kind of a business sense also of AI, as we call it, so generative AI, to be to speak in simple terms. Probably that's because at the beginning, even though GPT, as we know, was in history the fastest application to have that large number of users in that period of time, short period of time. Of course, a lot of the millions that subscribed at the beginning didn't really know how to use it. And so I think that it is the fastest application to have that kind of numbers, but also the fastest application to have inactive users for a long time. Because I like it, but kind of I don't know how it's useful for me. I drop it and then I go to something else, okay, or I just simply drop it. As you said, marketing is a factor, not only as a field of usage of AI, but also as a factor of having this snowball rolling. You see that one major company comes out with a new model, and the other one seems like it was just expecting the announcement to say, hey, we got a better one, okay?
Yeah.
it can be that they are developing on the basis of the others. So a lot of things, in my opinion, are in the drawer of the desk, and
Yeah.
they're just, there's a kind of a war to see what the other does and to make your announcement so that you can always be on top. Much like being on the page of Google, the most recent one is the
Yeah.
first one that you see. So I kind of see the same approach. When it will stop? On the basis, I think that is always a matter of computational power, right? So I don't know really what's the top of it,
Yeah.
but what it looks like, we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg. So
Yep. Yeah. We're
how
really
long
in
will
the
it
infancy.
continue? I don't know. I expect that for the next year or 2 years, we're gonna say kind of have the same kind of rhythm. And while it sets in business application adoption from large companies, regulation, so maybe it's going to try to regulate itself and have
Yeah.
more of a steady rhythm. My guess, but who knows?
Yeah, I think we'll see a little bit of a plateau as the technology catches up with the basically buzz, right? Where everyone's excited about it. I think another interesting thing that you look at is I think this wave has caught a lot of businesses off guard in a way where and I mean that from a budget standpoint. So you think about how companies have budgeted every single year, they're budgeted money for, whether it's cybersecurity or cloud or voice systems, whatever it is, they have this budget. And the AI wave starts hitting in October, like we talked about like 6, 7 months ago. Now it's November, but most budgets are set in September. So you get into December, and now all of a sudden, all these companies, especially when you're looking at that small, mid, and beginning enterprise market, they didn't have time to budget for it. Now, it also brings me to another question. Do you think there's going to be specific budgets for AI initiatives, or do you think it's going to fall under departmental budgets that cover a certain AI initiative?
That's a very nice question. I'm pretty convinced that there's going to be in the next year, in the next fiscal year, space for specific AI initiatives or AI budget, as you call it. I like that definition, so I make it my own.
Good.
But it can go two ways. AI is, of course, something so disrupting and so new that you have to some kind of a specific perimeter for it in the company. And I see it more on the side of internal education, internal training.
Yeah.
What is AI? How you can make good use of it without building an application? How safely you can use it. So I think that the AI budget specifically goes into that. As far for adding AI to existing application or rebuilding existing application with AI, probably is going to be an add up to departmental budget. There's another thing that, in my opinion, is interesting in this domain. Most companies, I think, especially in the mid to small segment, probably don't know that you don't really need a budget to build a
Yeah.
functioning prototype of something of AI. From the classical standpoint, also, even if you want to build a prototype or a advanced POC, you have to make a little investment somehow.
Yep.
And probably if that's the framework of thinking, you say, I don't have this year, no small company, I don't have 30Ks or 50Ks to build a
Yep.
prototype. With AI and automation, with AI embedded in it, actually you can build a prototype with a fraction of that, and so you don't really need a budget.
Yeah.
The thing is that most companies don't know that, and so
Right.
again, there might be betrayed by their own idea that I need the budget to build a prototype. Actually, you don't need it.
Well, and that brings up a very interesting point about trust in the market. You and I were just actually, before we jumped onto this, we're talking about who do we trust to be able to develop these? Because think about spending, even you don't need the $50,000, but let's say $2,000, $10,000, whatever that is for a prototype. You have to really be able to trust the people that are doing that. And you also have to be able to trust the ROI of when this is accomplished, right? Because I think if you're going to build a prototype, and when we build prototypes, we're like, we don't build a prototype to see if it's possible and charge to, well, it might or not, might not. Most prototypes are like, yeah, we can do it. Let's build the prototype so you can see at least base functionality and see how it works, not like to test to see if it works. And so I think it's interesting that companies need to have that trust to be able to, and you're spot on, especially in that market, that trust of who they're working with, the trust of the knowledge of who they're working with, so that they're giving them good advice as to, and then we talk about the art of what's possible in AI. Is this even possible? Is it something we should put our money in? And then I also have this concept with the way I run my business, is that if you're not increasing efficiency in showing an ROI with the AI applications, you shouldn't be doing it, because that's what AI is doing it. So if you implement an AI program and your human workers are just as efficient, well, then does that make sense? You're just wasting your money. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that being able to understand who you can trust with AI, whether it is from a consultancy point of view or from a technical point of view, of course, involves specific types of knowledge, which goes to, what they call prompt engineering, which is something of a, artifact word, but I
Right.
believe there's a knowledge in that. Of course, to how you handle data and how you handle the specific, interface developing, which is not AI, but still you need an interface to talk with AI,
Mm-hmm.
and also from the security standpoint. So it's a blend of, technical knowledge that you have to understand how to detect and how to assess, just like everything else. Um, I really agree with the fact that as a consultancy agency or freelance or company or whatever offers AI services, the first level of credibility is to show what you're doing yourself, right?
Yeah.
And to show that even simple automations, even simple implementations, uses of AI really gives you tangible benefit.
Yeah.
If not immediately ROI, but some kind of measurable advantage in efficiency, efficacy, spare time, so that you can really show that not only it's possible, that it's possible. Okay,
Yeah.
even if you did not do it before, that putting Zapier with an AI or something like that,
Right.
that at some point it will work, right? That's not the
Mhm.
question. The question is it useful to do it like that? Most of the times you discover that the main problem is analysis. And most of the times you can see that you don't need AI to apply efficiency to something. Everybody is jumping on the bandwagon of AI. Maybe what you need is just automation. And so
Yeah.
again, the background knowledge is what, in my opinion, is the most important thing.
Yeah, and there's also a lot of applications, or let's say current vendors, that have AI as a part, and actual AI. And when we say AI, of course, we're talking about a framework of machine learning, big data, things like that. So we're talking about a framework. But there's a lot of times where I'll have companies talk to me, and they'll be like, I had one company that wanted I want cybersecurity and AI in my cybersecurity. Well, you don't write AI into someone's cybersecurity. You say, okay, well, there's X company, Y company, and Z company that already do a very good job with it. And I think there's a lot of that. And like you said, from an automation standpoint, you don't need a customized AI application for something, but and maybe in some cases you do. And that's where it's interesting, where we used to be able to look at verticals and say, hey, the banking vertical needs this, and the hospitality vertical needs this, and healthcare needs this. But now you're actually having to micro segment verticals, not even micro segment, but bring it down to the actual company. So every single company is its own use case within a vertical, especially when we're talking about AI. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely, absolutely. And what you're saying brought up, a point or a thinking that is developing in my mind, is that uh, as companies, especially uh, mid and small size company, get to know AI, or at least they think that they get to know AI, the main point is to resist the temptation to build everything on your own because it seems easy.
Yeah.
So the probably one pivotal thing that you have to look at from the point of view of a company that wants to adopt AI is to find the correct mixture, the correct blend of some kind of a specific field of knowledge of maybe a small company which is specialized, verticalized into a specific domain, and some kind developed or transformed, shaped some kind of model of some kind of AI model to that specific a segment, which can be a market, which can be a use case, which can be whatever whatever you want to look at it. And so that's the mixture that, in my opinion, is important. The knowledge mixture. Of course, some kind of knowledge goes back to 20 years. AI, generative AI, goes back months, right? But that's the thing to look at, in my personal subjective opinion.
I agree. When I was starting out in my IT career, I was an IT director for a small printing company, and the CEO and owner used to always come to me and he'd be like, don't get caught up in whiz bang with technology. He's like, look, your job is to make everyone else's job easier, but
I think we have to cut this segment. I'm sorry.
No, it's what we don't need. This is the natural of every. This is how things are now. We work from home. It's how it is. You're okay.
Yeah.
So he would say, don't get caught up in the whiz bang of everything. So, and what he meant by that, and it was actually really good advice for me to get in my early 20s, was don't implement technology just for the sake of implementing what's hot and what's new. And I think that's so important for companies right now and businesses as they're looking at AI. And of course, we're both huge advocates for AI in business. It's what we do. It's what our passion is. It's again, how we make our living. But yet I don't want to see a company ever implement an AI application or feel like they have to because it's what the big buzz is. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, and that's even a multiplied risk today. Technology before AI, or at least perceived technology, went to a certain pace, so that even with enthusiasm, and even if you are an early adopter, you could be an early adopter of something that developed in a matter of months or maybe a few years. Today, you can be an early adopter of a new AI model. Take Llama 3 or Meta AI, as they call it. It's just last a couple of days ago announcement from Meta, which seems to be the killing generative AI model, the killing LLM.
Yeah.
And so there's risk that absolutely, and you're saying something that I totally agree on, which is to build something just because it seems technologically cool. But even not considering A, if you need it, B, how would you implement it, right? And so there's a big risk for that. Yeah, absolutely, I agree.
And there's another risk that I feel like I've identified. I talked to a lot of my businesses that I work with about that, and that's owning your own database, because there are so many new AI companies right now, and they might have you be putting information. Now it's protecting your information, but they're storing it in their own systems and everything. Well, I think what we're having right now is a lot of like this AI boom, almost like the .com boom. And you remember the .com, like we're the same age, so I know.
Unfortunately, yes, that means that I'm not so young. Yeah, I remember it.
Well, I'm right there with you. So I remember the .com boom, and all these companies went out of business. Now, I don't think we're going to see that same type of fallout that we had back then, but we're still going to have a lot of companies that are jumping in, that they're trying to make a quick buck. And if you don't own your data, and that's what I would say, own your data. I mean, that's what business is about now. Make sure that you own access to those, like whether it's the servers, the databases, whatever it is, that you own your own data, because I think there's a danger that you put a bunch of your information that is protected. Sure, they're protecting it fine, but that company goes out of business and you lose that. That seems like a possibility now.
Yeah, of course, and it's even more a possibility than it was 5 years ago with any other anyway advanced technology. So you're absolutely right. That's why you see this continuous quote chat about trusting and a paid model that probably will use my data to train, or maybe I use my own AI, or maybe I download the model, like it can be the case with Mistral, so to speak. But as we are, as an European, I should be proud of it, but frankly speaking, not so much, because it's somehow I think that it's an exercise on philosophy or something like that. Because yes, of course, you can have your own level of security and safety on your own data by somehow controlling the model or controlling the infrastructure where the model is hosted. But then again, does it go into a direction of efficiency and convenience also? Because you know that, yes, you can download models as effective as GPT, but you need a lot of computational power. So what's the balance between a reasonable level of safety and a reasonable level of investment? And so again, it becomes a very wise business decision, which we are not already equipped to make, first. And second, things are going so fast that a good decision today can be somehow not a good decision in 24 hours.
Yeah, yeah. Great point. So question for you. What was your aha moment for AI? Like, what was the moment where you were like, oh, I want to get into this a little bit more and start diving into it? Obviously, you have a technology background and you have a extensive career background, HR, technology, all that. But what was your aha moment with AI where you're like, I think this is something I need to learn more about?
Well, to be honest with you, it was not when I discovered ChatGPT. Okay, not at the moment. That
Right.
was probably, yeah, a little bit of a spark. But up until I understood how I could match AI, or the usage of a large language model with some kind of automation software that embeds steps where AI is used, that really, pull the trigger. That did, no pun intended, because we are speaking about triggers and actions when you
Right.
talk about automation. But that was really the trigger for me.
Yeah.
Say, if I can somehow put something that performs effectively into a flow of something that I use in a seamless way. That's the big difference in my opinion. A lot of people are trying to get the best out of something like ChatGPT, right?
Yeah.
Right. But ChatGPT is just an interface,
Yeah.
right? The cool thing is that when you can have that kind of elaboration ability into your normal workflows, that's the thing that really hit me. And I say,
Yeah.
I want to know something more about it. And so I studied and studied and studied and studied. And also the interesting thing, in my opinion, is that they say that AI, okay, leave it to AI, and so you can shut your brain so AI does it. In my case, as a almost 50-year-old guy, I feel more intelligent in the past, 18 months, because I learned so many things. My
Yeah.
my learning ability in the past 18 months was greater than the thing I have learned in the past like 7 years. If you
Yep.
think about it, that's always the we talk about the spark. That's the fuel for me.
Yeah, I love that. And it brings up this interesting thought that I've had. I don't think it's a unique thought, but it's about the evolution of humanity. And there's a lot of people who think that AI, like you said, AI is going to take over jobs. AI is going to make us dumber. AI is going to make us do all that. I think AI is going to force humanity to evolve. And I think, and what I mean by that, and there's a couple different ways you can look at that. One is, yes, if you use AI correctly, I feel the same way. I've learned so much more just by being able to have more access to information, be able to trial and just test different things. I've learned so much more, even about technology, where it's forced me to jump into different technologies and different things to look at with AI. But then you look at things like Neuralink, and I know that's controversial, right? With what Musk is doing with the Neuralink. But I think there might be a force for humanity to evolve to keep up with machines, and that might be embedding things that make us more intelligent. So we're not really, I think in 10 years, we're going to be what we would now consider superhumans from an intelligent and grasping standpoint. Now, again, this is just me speculating
No,
and
no,
maybe
man.
seeing a trend, maybe not, but at that time in 10 years, it's just going to be human. But I think humans, to keep up with AI, I think we will. I think humans will actually find a way to keep up with AI and not actually regress and fall backwards. I know that's controversial, but it really very well could be.
It has to be controversial, and at the end of the day, controversy is somehow also the spark of thinking. So let's welcome controversy, good controversy or good controversial opinions. I I will say that I agree with you. Of course, you have extreme cases. You cited Neuralinks, which is is it good or is it bad? Of course,
Right.
as any I'd like to say in my thinking that AI is a weapon. Okay, a weapon is not good nor bad. If you
Yeah.
use
Yeah.
to defend yourself or to somehow by harming no one or by building something that is more efficient for you, that gives power to you, that gives democratic power, that gives powers to
Yeah.
everything with an equal way of access, a weapon is a good thing, right?
Yep.
Of course, if you use the weapon to harm someone, it's a bad thing. So in the case of Neuralink, can it gives capabilities to maybe uh, disabled people to get a better life? Let's welcome Neuralink.
Yeah.
Uh, are you installing a chip to control people actions? Of course, it's bad. So at any level, you can make a good use or you can make a bad use. I strongly agree with you when you say that AI will force the human to pursue human evolution. Um, there are two differences with the past. It will be much faster,
Hmm.
probably, and like never before, evolution is not granted because AI can make you very, very lazy. And so that it's you that have to use it the right way to jump on it and go faster, but always having control rather than saying, hey, AI is doing everything. I'm living to AI. So losing power. So
Yeah.
it's a matter
Well,
of
we've
control.
seen that with the evolution of business. Even when you look at businesses, when you talk about, do I use it or do I not? Do I use it to be lazy or do I not? Even if you look at the automobile, and internal combustion, and farmers who at first resistance said, no, my horse is going to be better, I'll never use that. And then all the other farmers who were using it they just captured that market, and the ones who wouldn't adopt fell away. Then you saw that with computers, and even with accounting and accountants, and even doctors who didn't want to use transcription, and accountants who didn't want to use technology. And I've seen that over and over again, where it's like, look, because and that excuse is, it's always going to make, I'm not going to do that because it just makes you lazy. Calculators, I'm not going to do that, I'm not going to use a calculator because it makes you lazy. But now you see the people who adopt to technology, and they adopt to the new ways of doing things, they're the ones that do evolve. And you can look at like Blockbuster to Netflix, like all these examples of things in life, where in our lifetime, even, where we've seen adoption, where people have said, no, that's just going to make you lazy or make you dumber, right? But people have used that technology to even enhance. I think VR or AR is another one where we're going to see at first, yeah, okay, so can I sit in my home and I can sit in a mountaintop and I don't have to hike to a mountaintop and I can use it to do these lazy things that are still beautiful and mesmerizing? Sure. But as we see the next evolution, I think where AI is really going to start impacting will be in the augmented reality or virtual realities system. And that's going to get really exciting, because I think that's going to be where we enhance businesses. Have you looked much at AR and VR?
Well, not as much as I wanted to. I suspect, quote, that it's going to be the one of the areas where we are going to see the most powerful impact. I'm thinking about healthcare. I recently had some exams, and I was thinking while I was in the TC machine, is this AI applied to some level? Of course it is. And because the reconstruction of a heart structure from 2D pictures into a 3D model is
Right.
actually AI. That goes back to 20 years. What
Yep.
can happen with AR or VR in, image examinations or
Yeah.
imaging, if you apply to that, where you can maybe reconstruct a 3D movable model from a heart, from just a simple, X-ray. I don't know. I'm just
Yep.
speculating.
Yeah.
That can be incredible. Or maybe you can simulate an entire medical procedure to evaluate the risk of actually doing it. that's mind-blowing if you think about it. So I agree that this is going to be probably the next big bang inside the bang, probably.
Yeah. No, I've got another interesting thought too on the impact of business, and I see society, and I definitely see a younger generation who doesn't want to work 40 hours a week, and they don't, and maybe they're wising up, maybe not, I don't know. Like I know over
No,
here, I don't know if it's like this in Italy, but in the States it's 40 hours minimum. It's been that way since I was a kid. It's like, look, you work 60 hours a week if you have to, 80 hours a week, and that's how I was raised. I was just raised to grind. But I think it's interesting as we see society adapting to maybe wanting more time and more quality of life. AI might be able to be used to where we don't have to deduct pay. We don't have to penalize employees for efficiency. But if you can use AI to get your job done in 20 hours instead of 40 hours, or 30 hours instead of 40 hours, I don't think this is an opportunity for corporation to say, well, now let's start demanding more. That's probably what they'll do. But I'd
of
love to
course.
see it as an opportunity for corporations to say, let's give time back to the employee. Let's give freedom back to the employee. Let's make sure that they're being efficient and use AI for the efficiency, but also allow people to get a better quality of life, more personal freedom, mental health, all these things that I think are coming to a forefront now. AI could be a huge factor if it's used correctly. Now, I don't know if it will be though.
That will be the ideal, scenario, and that probably that if I want to feel good about something, that probably was the initial flame that somehow, was inside the brain of the people that developed it, right? So
Mhm.
create a more free society, create more time for human being, whether you want to spend it with your family, with your kids, doing sports, meditating, or just maybe, I don't know, focusing on the most qualitative aspect of your work if you remain to work at 40 hours per week. Um, Unfortunately, I suspect that this gain in efficiency will be seen by most companies as, that's good. You can do in 25 hours per week what you normally do in 40 hours per week. So you spare 15 hours. Let's see what can you do for me in the 15 hours that you made from it.
Yeah.
That's a perilous tendency. I hope it's not.
Yeah.
The force of the youngster today, which as a 50 years old I see two ways, but in this respect I see it as a force of change, probably can help. As I say to my kid, which is 19 years old, which of course says, I don't want to work 40
Right.
hours per week. And you say, you're probably right, but you can hope to work 20 hours per week because I worked 55 hours per
Right.
week. So you always have to understand that what is today is always a continuation of something that was before. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's an interesting point. But again, uh, from the point where you can imagine a more healthier, yeah, let's say that a more healthier way to work, AI could be a huge positive factor.
Yeah, and I think it's if we start, and it will take companies and businesses to really start adopting AI in the correct way. And maybe it is the younger generation as they start becoming the next leaders and they start seeing like, hey, we can do it different. But it's really going to take, yeah, just a different approach and a different use of AI. I also think it's going to take this human, and I always talk about this a lot, as the human aspect of AI. And I think that's something that we forget is AI is artificial intelligence. And really to be intelligent, we have this conversation a lot in psychology and everything about what does it mean to be intelligent? And there's IQ, there's EQ, there's different portions of it. And obviously IQ is a huge part, and that's where AI is really, helping with is the IQ portion of it. But where it really will become artificial and human intelligent like will be when it has the EQ. Now that gets a little scary when it actually has emotion and some things like that. But I think we need to look at and combine the human element with AI, and that's where we're going to evolve and grow. If we just look at it as only a machine, then that's all it'll ever be is a machine. And we're not gonna, I would like to see us kind of mold or meld this
No.
technology a little bit more.
Great point. And we are, touching, a perimeter of ideas that really goes into, subjective but global at the same
Right.
time. Um, I don't know if I'm thinking about today and if I see the development of this kind of technology and the level of humanity that we have today in 2024, which I'm not so enthusiastic about. I'm not sure, but really, that's not a judgment. That is just a statement. I'm not sure that I'm so enthusiastic about hoping for, a stronger blend between what is ultimately is a machine
Yeah.
and what is a human, because there's a chance that this blend could take the worst of both,
Good.
So I always have seen AI as something that can help me be a better human, but still a machine, super efficient machine,
Yeah.
quality machine, whatever you want, but not be compared to my capability of having emotions. The best thing that machine will do, I hope, is to emulate my emotion, mimic my emotion,
Mm-hmm.
understand how my emotion
Like that.
develop, but not feel them. The
Right. Not,
moment you
yeah, I like that.
okay, so that's the line. Probably it's a thin line, but that's the line I would like to keep for as long as possible.
I,
So
I like
we're,
that.
we're friend, right? We are friend,
Yeah.
but we're not coming into one. We're friend, okay?
Exactly.
But
I like that thought because what you're saying is that I want AI to understand emotion and that part of it and understand EQ, but you don't want it to actually feel
exactly,
and actually have feelings because now that crosses a really weird, yeah, kind of boundary right
absolutely,
there. I
absolutely,
think that's why I want as we talk about this, and I think as businesses, and I've seen both of us have seen how businesses adopt new technologies, is I want to start just voicing and at least having that voice of not reason, but like the conversation, right? And maybe society hears it, right? Maybe people hear it, and maybe other people start talking that way and start saying, hey, let's start using AI to better society, but not just think about businesses think of better society, meaning more profits, more this, more that. Okay, sure, we're going to make more profits, but let's start thinking about how will AI make society adapt to the way society is going. I mean, we keep trying to force us, and it's what we keep trying to force us into this old like way of thinking, but that's what I like about AI too, and that's what I like about the conversation is there is a psychology conversation with it, there is a philosophy conversation with it, there is a technology conversation with it, there's a humanity conversation with it, there's a community, there's just so when you look at all these different ways we can explore, and like you said earlier, we're in the infancy of AI. And so right now we're kind of exploring of what's possible and what is it even, but all this other stuff, it's going to be interesting as it comes out. What is the psychological impact? What is the long term of how we use it? How do we use it to be the best? And like you said, be a better human.
absolutely, absolutely. That's the to me the beauty of AI. And as I rethink my answer to one of your previous questions, what sparked your interest into AI is when I had this kind of thinking that saying, regardless of the technology, but this thing is going to be so impacting all the aspects of my life as a human being, and probably this is going to happen to all my fellow human beings on this planet. So the implications and the discussions that come out really are, in every human domain, so to speak. Okay, so
Yep.
that's a very powerful thing. Again, I hope for humans to not be afraid of AI, which is
Yeah.
at some level you see that today is happening on different discussions. But there's a level of anxiety, there's a level of fear, a level of resistance. I would not like that to endure. I would like humans to get more friendly with AI, but still friends, not
Yep.
you
Yeah.
know
Not. Yeah. Exactly. Not
not
joining.
not not somehow transforming into into one, two separated entities. And if I may add something, Benjamin, just in the last couple of days, I came into a situation where I knew a personal story of of a guy here in my town, actually, that probably could benefit from AI in terms of using some samples of his voice to make him able to speak his mind, which is something that today is not able to do because he has the degenerative disease.
Yeah.
But we're beginning to speak with the family. They're trying to collect samples of how his voice is used to be, and he will be able to tell his story in many languages and impact the world, right?
Yeah, that's amazing.
Isn't that an amazingly good use of AI?
Absolutely.
Something that can really can be friend of. So again, it's our power to understand and create better uses of this, in my opinion.
I love it. Alessandro, thank you so much. Thanks for jumping on. This has been a fun conversation. Obviously, we'll keep talking. It's been fun getting to know you. So I look forward to many more conversations.
Of course, it will be my pleasure. I really thank you for this opportunity. It was really fun and interesting and, thoughtful to have this conversation with you. So we can have this conversation between us, or hint maybe between our avatars, but maybe
our avatars.
to some other episodes of this.
That's still on the list for this year.
Of course.
The Avatar and Bimbatar conversation.
Of course. Let's see how they will behave in this kind of conversation.
Right, exactly. Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks again, Benjamin. It was my pleasure, really.